Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, home of the YouTube Silver Subscriber Award. We are thrilled that we have crossed over 100,000 subscribers on our first channel, and our second channel is on the way. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today for our show, A Woman's Prerogative. And we want to say hello to everyone at E360. So sorry to keep you waiting. We hope you'll enjoy the show today. Today's show is a show about nothing. That's right. Remember the successful Seinfeld series, a show about nothing? Well, we're going to try to do our own show about nothing. So joining me is my dear friend and our full-time panelist, Mariska Dupria, formerly from New Zealand and now in Australia. She is a leadership and transformation coach. She's an author. She's a songwriter, and she is someone who is helping leaders all over the world. Let's welcome her to the program. Welcome, welcome. Hello. How are you?
Hello, hello. Well, I'm very excited to have a show about absolutely nothing today. So can't wait to see what happens.
You know, I think it's really cool because we can just basically talk about anything. We can take it anywhere we want to go. So let's start off by our new friends who are joining us. Over the weekend, I was at a family wedding and a bunch of people signed up. They're joining us. So you never know. We always have more people. And if they haven't met you before, let them know what you do and how you can help them, please.
So, as Dr. Jacalyn mentioned earlier on, my name is Mariska Dupria and I'm a leadership partner. What does that mean? Well, if you are new within the leadership space or you are moving up within your leadership space, I partner with you to bring in all those human elements that typically we do not learn in university or wherever it is that you went before you stepped into the leadership space. So that's what I do. And yes, I don't know about you guys, but typically for me, I can read a book with really good information. And if I don't physically know or understand how to put it in practice myself, it never happens. And that's where I come in. So we translate that into your specific circumstances, your world, how it looks and works for you. No one else, not your boss, not some other friend or somebody that you look up to, you specifically. So that's what I do by partnering with you. And I do that in a variety of different ways. And I also know, and I really want to get into this topic. So that's how you work with me. And if, of course, you want to get hold of me, you can do so via my email, which is below. It is mariska@journey2discover.com, or alternatively, you can also find me on LinkedIn. And with that, Dr. Jacalyn, I'm almost as fast as that little guy at the end of the thing. I always laugh when I hear him go.
You're like an Energizer bunny. I love it. So we're going to be just talking basically about everyday nonsense. And I've got one, so I'll share, and then we can go to you. So where I live, we have reserved spaces for parking. And I found that there have been various people parking in my space, and they're not supposed to be. So this one person continued to park there. So I left 2 notes, handwritten notes on the car. The first day was 1 note. Then I came back and the car was still there. So there was a second note. Then I called the office. And so they told this person that they had to move their car. So I was gone for the weekend, the family wedding. and I came back yesterday and I pulled into my space. There weren't no other car there. And then the person who had been parking my space also pulled in and parked in someone else's space. So the two of us were getting out of the car at the same time. So obviously she knew that it was me because she was parking in that space. So she looked at me and I looked at her, and I really wanted to go over and say, that's right. This is who has the car. It was in that space. And you took the 2 notes that I gave you and you threw them on the ground. They're on the ground right now. And yet you continued to park in my space. Now you got to face me. But instead, I did nothing. I just smiled, kept my cool, and didn't do anything. So that's nonsense, right?
It is. It's also very annoying. It's why is it that people do things like that? I personally don't understand it. It's not something, to me, it doesn't feel courteous at all. And I get it. We want to get space and need to park. And if it's reserved for a reason.
Exactly.
It reminds
by
me
the way, then you park in someone else's space, then they come back, and it's like a whole ripple effect because everyone just knows about their space. I don't have a thing of, oh, Bob's in this space, Susan's. I have no idea who's parking where. I'm not paying attention. So yeah, so that's my nonsense for the day. So what nonsense do you have that you can share?
Well, my nonsense for the day is I suspect we have mice. Now, I am not sure yet because I haven't actually gone into the roof to have a look. But the last 3 nights, so 2 of them I was awake. One of them, my husband told me about this, and I didn't know because I slept through it. At roundabouts, and I'm saying roundabouts because I'm not exactly sure. Last night I did see that it was about 2:15. The nights before that, don't know whether it's the same time. But roundabouts then, it sounds like we are having an epic roof party in the ceiling. Very annoying, especially if you're not invited. And I don't know whether they have alcohol, but it's really loud. And it lasts for around about half an hour or so, and then goes fairly quiet, or I'm just too tired and I go back to sleep. I don't know which one it is. So my husband also, we have, as you might know, 2 cats. The one is still small, so he can get into places that the other one typically can't get into. So my husband initially thought maybe it's that cat that discovered a way to get into the ceiling. Not sure about that yet. I am suspecting mice. But yes, that is a nonsense thing that, and I love critters. I really do. I really don't want them in my house because at the moment they're in the ceiling. At some point, they might decide to come into the house. Well, that will be a mistake. I do have 2 cats, so they will definitely be dead mice. My potential problem is that I will then have a dead mouse in my bed or on my bed because I'm suspecting that the one cat will definitely come and show off his wonderful trophy once it's caught, which I really don't want. So I want to prevent them from actually even getting into the house at all. So yes, that's my nonsense thing. And if there's anybody out there that has any ideas about, well, what mice behavior is like during the evenings and nights, that would be great. Also take into consideration, we have winter at the moment. So it is nice and cozy inside the house, not so nice and cozy outside the house. One of the reasons why I think they might have decided that the roof sounds like a great place to live at the moment. Plus, there's all sorts of cozy things in there that mice can, well, potentially use to cozy up against. So, yes, that's my little bit of nonsense and a tad of frustration.
Well, I can understand your frustration because I'm not a fan of mice either. I have read about rats that if there's some kind of weather issue, they will climb from the floor. They will go on the roof. That's where they will live and stay. They're very adaptable in terms of changing their environment. So I think they're what's called as hardy creatures, hardy.
Mhm.
But when they meet your cats, they might think of relocating. So yeah. But and also because it's winter, you would think they'd have to at some point go under. Don't they burrow?
That's what I suspected. The thing is, from my very limited knowledge of rodents, don't they normally hibernate during wintertime or go into a little bit more of a hibernation space potentially, so a little bit more sleepy? Which I don't know. The other thing that I do know, so one of the things back in South Africa, somebody told me that if you have mice or rats in your ceiling, normally, other than if they're gnawing something, the sound that you hear, it's not them, it's snakes. Because they're food.
No. Let us
Right?
not even go there, please.
Okay. I don't think it's a snake. I would hear it. It doesn't sound like walking, because that's what snakes almost sound like when they're on the ceiling. They do this weird thing with their body, so it sounds like they're walking. But that doesn't sound like that. It sort of sounds more like gnawing and scratching. And that's why I'm thinking might be mice or rats, or a very innovative cat that got into the ceiling somehow, and I have no idea how he does it. So I have a teleporting cat, potentially. I don't know.
Well, they're going to need something to eat at some point. And can snakes and rats or snakes and mice coexist in a roof?
Well, the rats and or mice would be the food of said snake.
Yeah. So
and they got in there somehow, so I'm sure that they could get out of there somehow to get food. So I don't think food would be too much of a problem for them. My bigger problem is most of the utilities located in the ceiling, because that's where all your cables and ductings and stuff run. So they're also very big fans of gnawing those things and then using it as nesting material. Don't want that. I don't want to switch on a light and then there's nothing, or use something else and then there's nothing because, well, mice and or rat decided to gnaw through it. So yes, I will need to go and get up in the ceiling at some point and just have a look.
I think you could call a professional, don't you?
That might be wise, yes.
Because you don't know what it is. And you don't know how long it's been up there and what kind of attitude it has. And if you encounter it, what are you going to do with it? You could just be subjecting yourself to something you don't need to.
This is true. Yes, I was thinking about pest control as well, and seeing who we have in our local area as a pest controller. Because the other thing is I will need to find out how they got in, so I can stop them from doing that again. I know that that's another thing that was nonsense, right? We saw the other day while we were out looking for, I think it was gardening things. So the shop itself is really big. It has all sorts of things for the house, for the garden, you name it, they've got it. And anything in between too. So went there, we were looking for stuff for the garden, and we actually saw it's like a netting that you can put at any gaps that you have in your laundry, typically laundries, because what happens is it is winter. So for us, it rains a little bit more during the winter than during the summer. And most people will then dry their clothing inside the house and leave the door for the laundry open so that it can ventilate. Now, when you do that, because we have snakes, they see the heat that's emitted from the laundry because it's a lot warmer than outside. So they have a tendency to crawl in. And the netting is to keep them out, or out of spots where if they did crawl in, they can go into it. So if you think between your washing machine and the cupboard, those small little spaces, yeah, they go in there. So there's some netting and stuff that you can put over it, prevent them from getting in. So we saw that the other day, and I was like, okay, great. Good to know that the Snakes has discovered the fact that house is a good, warm place. Not so good, of course, for us, because as you may or may not be aware, most snakes in Australia, poisonous. Other thing about most snakes in Australia, actually all snakes in Australia, they are all protected. You are not allowed to kill them. So you would want to preferably not have a snake inside the house. So yes, at the moment, Dr. Jacalyn, I am really thinking that pest control is my next thing to do after the show today.
Yeah, please don't go and investigate it yourself, because you just don't know. There's no upside. So you might have to put out some money, but at the same point, you're protected. And then if they do discover something, they can take care of it. So yes, I would definitely be making that call if I were you. For sure. Yeah, so let's think about some other nonsense. Something that comes to mind. I never understand this. It makes literally no sense to me. Parking lots. Why are people driving like psychos in parking lots? Why are people speeding through parking lots? Don't you realize people are walking in parking lots? Children, people are coming in and out of cars, and people just drive through like they're on a highway. I don't understand that. Do you?
No, that is really concerning. Are they? And it's very limited space-wise. I mean, a parking lot is there. Well, I don't know about you, but normally when I find myself in a parking lot, I am trying to get parking. The easiest way to do that is to actually drive slowly so I can look for said parking.
Yes.
Why would you want to drive fast in that space?
Because you're leaving. Now you're leaving and you want to get on your way. So now you're just in a rush. So my dad used to say, when you're driving, you have to have eyes in the back of your head because you don't know what's going on behind you. And I know that cars, newer cars, I don't know from when, my car is 7 years old, but they have a camera, and it beeps when there's something behind, but that doesn't mean that you still don't have to do a full turn around and look. And I'm sure the newer cars probably have even better technology. So I just like to ask people, please slow down when you're in a parking lot, because there are human beings that are walking, and nobody wants to have some kind of accident because you are in a rush and can't slow down.
I agree. It reminds me of some other nonsense. Way back when, back in South Africa still, we at a stage at work, they decided that everybody had to reverse park. Whenever you park on site, you needed to reverse park, which, I mean, if they want to make a rule, fine, by all means, go nuts. Didn't always make sense to me, but it did make it a lot easier to get out. The only thing is, for a lot of people, they needed to relearn how to park properly. And to your point about vehicles and cameras and all the rest of it. So over the weekend, we went to a small little town called Warrnambool, and they had a farmer's market. So we decided, well, we're going to stop in and see what they have and go just walk around. And there was this one person that has a very brand new car. Not going to mention said car, but I do know that said car has a self-parking function, and yet they did not use it. And they struggled for a good 5 minutes to get into the parking spot. I just had to shake my head. Because apparently for some people, driving is a very difficult sort of exercise, which I don't think self-driving cars or cars with features that takes over when you can't do it is necessarily helpful. Dr. Jacalyn, have you found that these days, with cars that can do a lot more things and sort of protect us from everything, right? People get a little bit more silly with driving. It's almost like they don't either know or care what they're doing when they're behind the wheel.
Yes, I think that's very true. And I think also what's interesting is, I don't know how it is there in your country, but here it's state by state whether or not marijuana is legal and other things are legal. And you pull up next to a car and it's just like, and you think to yourself, I don't know, how are you legally able to drive when you are so self-driving sounds like a good idea, as well as having someone drive you like an Uber or a Lyft or something. But it does seem that even though cars are getting more and more advanced, we as humans are getting more loose in terms of what we're doing while we're driving. I mean, I've seen people, and you probably have too, curling their hair. I mean, I don't know how you do that. Where's the I guess you could put it into that outlet, putting on makeup, dropping the phone and driving while they're not even looking. So you, like my father would always say, you have to drive defensively. You never know what someone else is going to be doing. But I have been in a Tesla, which was self-driving vehicle, and that was a long time ago. And I wasn't the one driving, but I really wanted my friend to keep her hands on the steering wheel because I still felt like you just don't know in a second.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I won't say I want to control it that badly, but I really do enjoy driving. To me, it's a fun activity. I drive a manual. I do not drive an automatic vehicle.
Woo, go girl.
I drive a manual, right? I want to be in control of when I gear up and down and all the other things that goes with it. It's such a different experience. Just that, right? Just a manual versus an automatic vehicle. And I know that sometimes, especially when you drive a lot in the city or there's places where you need to gear up and down quite a bit, a manual can get tiresome. Your feet and shins would not love it so much. But for me, I really enjoy it. I remember when I started driving, even before I started driving, my dad used to always put my attention to how the car sounds. So listening to the engine, the way that the engine sounds tells you when to move from one gear to another gear. It tells you whether it's pulling too hard or it's not, or whether there's anything wrong with it. So for me, I enjoy that. For me, it's part of the thrill of being able to drive, is having a vehicle that it feels like I'm driving. And that might be one of the reasons why I understand getting a car that can park itself wonderful. But to me, it's a skill. It's something that I can learn. It's something that I can get really good at. So why won't I want to be doing that? It's especially because it is something that I enjoy doing. So yeah, I don't know. It might just be me. Dr. Jacalyn, what's your thoughts on driving pleasures in general?
I grew up in the car business. So my dad and my uncle were car dealers, new car dealers. So Lincoln Mercury, and I worked in sales and I was the finance manager. So I love cars and I'm a real car advocate. I love driving. The only thing I have to say about driving, for example, this weekend, I went to my nephew's wedding. So it ended up being a 5-hour drive on the way there because I stopped first somewhere else. It should have been 3 hours. It was 5. It was torrential rain and the sky was black. I mean, when I left, it was 65 degrees and sunny. Then all of a sudden it went up to 90 degrees. It was pouring. You couldn't even see. And the sky was black. And then on the way back, it should have been, because I was coming from the wedding venue, it should have been about 4 hours and it was 5 hours. And I'm the kind of person, I hate to say this, but it's true. I love what I do. And any minute that I can be working, I want to be working. I'm always finding new things and new ways to promote what we're doing. And I just love it. So yesterday when I was in the car, I figured it was going to be 4 hours at least. So I counted for 5. So as the GPS, the number of miles kept changing, I just was very calm because my expectation was it's going to be 5 hours. But I really wanted to do work. And I don't think it's a great idea. I've seen this. I know people who do this. They are driving 80 miles an hour and they're doing something on their phone while they're driving. And I just think to myself, it can wait. It's not that important. But to answer your question, I love to drive, but I didn't like giving up that time driving when I could have been working.
See, now that's, I absolutely understand it. And what I enjoy about long drives, especially when I'm alone in the vehicle, is I would either listen to music if I feel like music, or I would think through stuff. Literally try to figure things out and just talk out loud. I think other people in other vehicles, if they were to look at me, would think I'm quite mad because it would look like I have a full conversation with another person and there's no other human being in the vehicle. But that's something that I really enjoy doing. And I have to say, that's something that I really miss because I don't drive long distances anymore. I used to drive at least an hour each way per day. So 2 hours on the road each day. And that was basically my allocated thinking time. I would think about whatever, the next day's work, the supper that I was thinking of preparing, whatever it is that I needed thinking time for, I used that as my thinking time. And I have to say, because what else do you do, right? As you said, you can't work, you can't cook, you can't really do anything in the vehicle other than, well, just sit and drive the vehicle. But there's other things that I've found that I can do that I actually now miss. It's sort of I would like to just do some thinking. And the fact that the vehicle is moving, I have found for me helps so much. It's so different having thinking time when you're sitting still versus when you're moving.
It's very
not
true.
necessarily walking or running, but body moves.
Yeah, that's very true. And the long drives that I've done were from Florida to New Jersey to Florida. And up until 2023, I was doing them with my mom. And I think up until 2022, she was still able to drive and she loved driving. She'd always say, I'm a good driver. I'm a very good driver. And yes, Mom, everyone knows you're a good driver. Everyone knows this information. So she would usually do a lot of the driving and then I could sit and work, which was nice. So now that she's not here, obviously I'm doing all the driving, but I always have the music on and I'm typically listening to the 70s or the 80s and I'm singing at the top of my lungs, which is crazy. And I've noticed recently my voice is much deeper than it was 3 or 4 months ago. I used to be able to hit certain notes and I can't hit them anymore. So I find that to be, obviously we're talking about nothing and that's nothing to talk about. So, but something else I really think is interesting, in the summers, I typically will walk 6 to 8 miles a day. And that's how I came up with Dr. Jacalyn LLC. That's how I decided to do life coaching. That's how I ended up meeting you back in 2019. So I like to go for walks, not now because it takes up so much time. And again, I'd rather spend my time working or working out. I don't even like to talk on the phone, by the way. Let's talk about that for a minute. I'm not a phone person. And some people are very, I want to say phony. I mean, they like phones, they're phone people. And to me, if I'm going to, so, we talk about elevated listening, right? So if I'm going to have a phone conversation with you, then I'm not going to be able to do anything because I'm listening to what you have to say. So now I'm like in an hour or 2 hours, and, sometimes you and I meet after the show and we'll do things like we're actually figuring things out. We're not talking about nothing because we can talk about nothing on this show, but in real life, I like to talk about something because I always have these goals and objectives of what it is I want to do. And I think to myself, if today were the last day I was on this earth and I was checking out, how am I doing on my legacy?
Ooh. Yes, I'm with you on the phone thing. And I remember one of our previous conversations, might have been last week or the week before, you mentioned your dad always said that it's for the convenience of the caller, not necessarily the person that's phoned. So that got me thinking. And yes, it really is the person that's doing the phoning that has the convenience of being able to get hold of you. Now, it also reminded me of a holiday that we went on in the Karoo. So the place where we stayed literally had zero reception, right? You can have your cell phone with you. There's no reception there. They had a landline, but of course, who do you phone with said landline? And that was the only form of communication. So it was really just for absolute emergencies that you use the landline. And I found it so interesting because initially our girls went with us, and the first couple of the days they hated it. It was so difficult for them because they couldn't see what the friends was up to. They couldn't communicate with anybody. And the only time that you could really use your cell phone was when we went into town, which was about a 40-minute drive away from where we stayed. But after about the first week, so after they detoxed a little bit, it got a lot better. And we would actually go into town and they would say, well, yeah, we're ready to go back home now. We're not interested in whatever these other people are just making us tired. We could just go back. And then we have a good excuse because we don't have any cell phone reception. They also discovered that it takes a little bit more effort in organizing stuff. So we met somebody there with horses, and one of the twins loved horses. So she wanted to go and visit and go and ride horses and do all sorts of stuff while we were there. So we had to organize things a little bit more practically and be a bit more on time with certain things. So that also taught them, I think, a very good thing within that space. Plus, you can't lay on a phone, right? There's literally one landline. So if the one person uses the one landline, nobody else can use it. Or if there's an emergency, then that's a problem. So we read books mostly. So that's what's coming up for me when you're speaking about the phone thing. And I was also thinking about legacy. Your dad actually, with that one saying, is leaving a legacy. And I don't think he was actively thinking about this is going to be my legacy.
No, very true. And I did find an email that he wrote. He passed away in 2012, and he wrote an email to me about becoming an author. And he did all this research, and he wrote, "Hun, I really think that you should write a book. You have such great stories to tell, and you're a good storyteller." And isn't it funny? I found it like on an old AOL email address, like that I don't even really use. But anyway, guess what? We just got word that we need to close out the show. So we thank our friends at E360, and we thank our friends on all the social media platforms. We started late today, so we apologize. We're not giving you the full episode as we normally would. So Mariska, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, and who would you like to contact you?
So if you are thinking about stepping into leadership, or you are already in leadership and you want to up your game in whatever shape or form that might take, you can get hold of me via my email, which is Mariska, MARISKA, at journey2discover.com. You can also, of course, go to my website, which, thank you, Dr. Jacalyn, you would see. If you aren't able to see that, that is also journey2discover.com will take you to my website. And then, of course, if you are on social media, LinkedIn is the platform that I most regularly use. So on LinkedIn, you can drop me a direct message and we can start our conversation. So that is who and how you get hold of me.
Thank you very much, everyone. That was their LinkedIn that we were showing, and we really appreciate everyone being here. Mariska, thank you for being here, and thank you for your flexibility. And we'll be coming back to you live next week when we will be talking about something as opposed to nothing. But the nothing was fun. I enjoyed it. So
Yes, me too.
Bye for now, Mariska.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. We're closing out. Our next show is coming up, You as a Whole, Body, Mind, and Soul with Justin Merigliani. I will be hosting it today, believe it or not. So we will be coming right back, and we will not be running any sponsorships at the moment. So we'll be saying goodbye for now, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. Bye.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting. We're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.